What is up, angels? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am very excited because it's all about the brand new Juvias Place Wahala eyeshadow palette. This is a more dramatic eyeshadow palette. As you can see here, I already jammed my nail into it because that's just me. But anyways, if you're interested on this baby right here, please stay tuned and keep on watching. Let's get straight into this because hello, dramatic palettes, I'm all for it. Anyways, this is the Juvias Place eyeshadow palette. This is their new Wahala limited edition eyeshadow palette. This brings 20 different eyeshadows from texture, duochromes, soft pearls, creamy mattes, and glitters. You get a whole bunch of different variety in here. This is all cardboard basically. Well, this whole packaging is recyclable. The name Wahala, I think that's how it's pronounced, is a Nigerian pidgin word. It's translation for drama. So the idea behind this palette was the craftsmanship of African masks. These masks are usually worn for ceremonial activities and things like that, so they wanted to bring that to life in an eyeshadow palette, and they did created each color to symbolize like moods and to represent unity, love, excitement, fruitfulness, boldness, authority. So it's a beautiful meaning behind it as well, besides the whole palette. And by looking at the packaging, you get an idea of what African masks look like. The packaging on the back, you get a little bit of the description on what Wahala means, what the name of the palette means, and why they chose it. You also get a little bit of information on ingredients as well as in which eyeshadows are pressed pigment, the eyeshadow ingredients. You also get a little disclaimer that this is for external use only and that certain shades are not meant to be used around the immediate eye areas. This is a cruelty-free product. It is designed and formulated in the US according to Juvias Place. It is manufactured in PRC, and this is a pressed pigment palette. And pressed pigment, you guys, are just pretty much pigments that are pressed into a pan like these ones. These kind of pigments are usually vibrant, and this is why you see a whole bunch of different bright colors in this palette as well. And pigment usually provide full pigmentation unlike other, regular shadows. But once you press a pigment, and depending on the pressing, like if it's pressed way too much, it's not gonna show as much on the eyes as well. And usually pigments are not approved in the US by the FDA, but they are approved for the face. And these are just certain ingredients in these shadows that are just not approved in here, but they are approved in the EU. Just because in the EU, the FDA is pretty much more progressive and more advanced than here, I believe. This is just information that I have gathered and learned throughout my research online, and I just want to bring awareness to that for you guys that might be sensitive, because this is one of the main reasons why I want to be more vocal when it comes to my giving my reviews and giving you as much information as I can, because pigments can be a little harsh on people with sensitive skin. They can leave stains and it can cause rashes, irritation, and all that sorts of stuff. Doesn't mean that you should be scared of it. I personally have never had a problem with Juvias Place eyeshadow. I think they're great and always have amazing pigmentation. So you guys, let's get into the fun part now. The eyeshadow swatches. These honestly did not swatch as good as other eyeshadow palette that I have swatched in the past from Juvias Place, but I'm gonna give you a little swatch version here. And I'm gonna be honest, you guys, the shades named feel like they're all over the place. I'm not sure what they were going for. So in the first row here, we have the shade BU, and this is described as a matte dark berry burgundy. Next, we have the shade Stand Up, and this is described as a shimmery champagne color. Next, we have the shade Fighter, and this is described as a metallic, vibrant, light medium green. Next, we have the shade Fire, and this is described as a fiery, matte, intense red. Next, we have the shade Power, and this is described as a metallic, mermaid blue, green duochrome. Now, let's move on to the next. First, we have the shade Unafraid, and this is described as a shimmery, medium tone purple with a frosty finish. Next, we have the shade Pride, and this is described as a soft, muted, matte, mauvey nude. Next, we have Gossip, and Gossip is described as an intense, buttery, metallic gold with a green undertone. Next, we have the shade Rumors, and this is described as a shimmery, metallic, coppery rose. Next, we have the shade Yanga, and this is described as a sparkling, deep aqua green glitter. And that is our second row. Let's move on to the third row, starting with the shade Envy, and Envy is described as a full shimmer pink with violet duochrome, light blue pearls. Next, we have the shade Sis, and this is described as a matte, cool tone tone dark brown. Over Savvy is described as a dark yellow mustard brown. Next to that we have Unsilence, and Unsilence is described as a matte coral red. Next to that we have Love, and this is a beautiful matte Crayola blue. So that concludes our third row. Let's move on to the fourth row. Last but not least, starting with the shade Woke, and Woke is described as a matte lavender violet. Next we have the shade Unshook, and this is described as a deep shimmery powder. Next to that we have Pepper Bond. This is described as a sparkling champagne gold glitter. Next to that we have a Busy Body, and this is described as a playful bright matte magenta pink. Lastly we have the shade Clouds, and Clouds is described as a sparkling blue glitter. And that concludes all of our swatches. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the shadows that are pressed pigment that are technically not meant to be used on the eyes. So the shades Younger, Over Savvy, Unsilence, Woke, Busybody, Younger are not intended to be used on the eyes, and I just wanted to share with you guys that in case you do have sensitive eyes. And now we're gonna move on to sharing with you guys some of my other eyeshadow palettes from Juvias Place that I feel like they are similar. I only have certain amount of eyeshadow palettes, not everything, so I'm gonna share with you guys the ones that I have and the one that I think have similar shades to this new eyeshadow palette from Juvias Place. So first of all, I'm starting with their mini palette in the shade Violet. So I went ahead and swatched the Wahala palette, the shades Unafraid and Envy, which are the closest to the Violet's mini palette, and I'm going to compare it here side by side. As you can see, I went ahead and swatched the two other shades that look most similar to this palette. They do kind of look similar, but they have different hues to them, but I just wanted to share with you guys what they look like in comparison. Now the next palette that I think have similar shades is the Queen's palette with Fumi and Juvias. Is an influencer that collaborated with Juvias Place, and the shades that I feel like are mostly that look the most alike are the red shade, the pink one, and also that rusty looking shade on the same road. So first I swatched the Wahala palette, and now I'm gonna go ahead between the spaces that I left. I'm gonna swatch the Queen's palette, starting with that FDA approved shade, starting with that champagne shade, which I thought was similar, but clearly you can see that the Queen's palette is way lighter than the Wahala palette. I also went ahead and swatched the red shade, which I thought looked super similar to this one, to the Wahala palette as well. And this is comparison next to each other. I'm not gonna force anything down your throat. You can see it for yourself, the comparison, how similar they look. So there is that. And this honestly here just looks more like a more pigmented version of the Wahala palette, if I'm being honest, in regards only to those shades that I swatch. And from here on, I'm just gonna show you guys some of the other palettes that I think look super similar to the Wahala palette, including this berry palette. I feel like the purple look very similar to it. Another palette that I found some shades that look maybe similar is the Nomads palette, and I feel like the brown, the deep dark brown looks similar to that one. Also, the Chocolates palette have another one that looks just like this Wahala brown. We also have the Nomad Nuvian 2, Nuvian 2 palette. Here's a comparison side by side. Honestly, not much comparison here, but you kind of get the idea behind Juvias Place palette. They usually have like the same color theory, in my opinion, just they throw in a different few shades. Especially with this new palette, I don't know, I feel like let down with this new palette. I feel like the whole vibe of it is just unorganized, like it's not well put together. The whole color story, I don't really like it either for some reason, you guys. Like, it just doesn't coat my name. I love all the other palettes, you guys. I'm a huge Juvias Place fan, and I love all of their older palettes. They work so much more amazing than this palette right here. I am going to show you a tutorial to see how it works on the eyes, but honestly, as of right now, I just feel like this is a palette that I would not go and buy. They have so many other palettes that get your money worth for than this palette that I highly recommend. So there is that. I'm gonna go ahead and start now with the first look that we're going to create here. So now let's get into this eye look. I'm starting with the first shade, which is called Woke, and I'm applying this on the crease inner corner. As you can see, I'm just literally tapping motion. I did find myself to pick up a lot of shade to be able to make the color show up. So that's one thing there that kind of like disappointed. But next we're gonna go in with the shade Busybody. I really like this shade. It did show up, but again, I find that these eyeshadows are so pressed that it doesn't allow the brush to pick up a lot of color, therefore they won't show up as much on the eyes, but they work okay, you guys. It's not bad, but I do feel like you could get much more on other palettes from Juvias Place than this one. Moving on, I'm also going to be adding a little bit of the shade Pride. I'm going to be adding that just to blend out the outer edges, and also added a bit of the shade Envy to create this little glow effect. I'm also gonna go ahead and cut the crease, and I really like how this look. I wanted to end it here, you guys, because I thought it was super cute, but of course I had to add some of this glitter eyeshadow, and I'm using the shade Yanga, which in the palette looks a little bit more of a bluish, but then once you apply it here and you can see it under lighting, it looks green. It has a lot of green reflex. So there's that. I went ahead and applied it all over the eyelid. I feel like if you applied a different shade underneath, it will show up so much better than how I applied it. I also went ahead to the lower lashes and added the same shades, Busybody, and also blended it in with the shade Woke. And that was pretty much it for this look, you guys. Super simple. I also add a little bit of this waterline liner from LA Girl, which works amazing. And yeah, literally super simple, dramatic, but yet like easy to work with. I added some lashes on top and the bottom, and boom, you get this super pretty look. Now let's move on to the next one, because I had to show you guys another look, of course, to give you more variety. And on my Instagram, I have 3 other looks from this palette that I will be sharing as well. So make sure you guys follow me there if you want to see more looks using this palette. Moving to the next look, I actually let the top layer that I created first from the first look, I just let that be because I really liked how it looked. And now I'm going to start with the shade Fire, which is a beautiful red shade. And I'm going to be adding that all over my crease. As you can see here, I'm just packing it on and blending it out towards my outer corners. I'm also adding a little bit of Unsilence, and I'm just bringing that out to the outer corners of the eyes. And I really like how it blended in. It's super pretty. And then I'm going to go in with the shimmery shades Envy and also Unafraid, which are those purpley tones, and they're super pretty. I'm just adding them all over my eyelid. I just want to share with you guys some like super easy lamps that you could just create without having to do much effort, but yet looks like you did a lot. I'm also adding a little bit of the shade BU, which is a beautiful dark berry shade close to the lash line. Also, and to darken that and create a little bit more of that smoky eye effect, I added the shade Sis, and that was practically it, you guys. Super simple. Added some lashes, and boom, you have another super pretty look. I did the same thing for the lower lashes, and that's basically it. Let me know in the comments down below how you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you want to see more eyeshadow palettes review from me, and leave it in the comments because it helps a ton. Give this video a thumbs up because it also helps so much. And till next time, babes, I'll see you on my next one. Let me know in the comments down below. I love talking to you, so leave me a comment. Anyways, I love you, babes, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye.